Level 5 is here, and this week, the theme is all about universal healthcare. Welcome to the final level of the Allan Entrepreneurship Challenge in 2019. Learners have excelled throughout the game thanks to their ambitious teachers, and we know that this week is going to be no less than amazing. Once again, we've chosen this theme because it's reflected in the UN Sustainable Development Goals framework. The organization has laid out a comprehensive framework of smaller objectives, all related to healthcare, and all aiming to make universal healthcare a reality. In South Africa, we know just how important universal healthcare is, especially since there is a high rate of infection of both communicable and non-communicable disease groups. For instance, the World Health Organization estimated in 2017 that South Africa's TB infection rate stood at 322,000 active cases. HIV statistics are also alarming, and in fact, the high prevalence of the disease has long been one of South Africa's most important challenges. According to 2018 statistics from Stats SA, 13.1% of the country's population is infected, the highest in the world. Picture an adult infected with TB living in a rural South African village. This person has got to take the prescribed medication at regular intervals every day to successfully cure themselves of TB. And this is what makes access to medicines critical, because if the patient visits their local clinic to collect medication, only to find out that it's out of stock, then the bacteria causing TB gains a reprieve from the medicines used to control it, and it uses this time to grow and to intelligently evolve into an even more dangerous strain of TB that sometimes can no longer be treated by the same medication anymore. This evolved form of the disease is called drug-resistant TB or DR-TB, and is particularly difficult to treat since patients have to go on to another more severe line of medication with even more unpleasant side effects. It also becomes costly for the country because these second-line medicines needed to treat more advanced forms of the disease group are a lot more expensive. The activities this week aim to help learners understand the business challenges and opportunities that lie within the healthcare domain. We introduce them to strategies employed by healthcare entrepreneurs in public health and how government tenders play a pivotal role in the growth of an entrepreneur's enterprise. We explore the business tactics employed by countries to meet their healthcare targets, including an introduction to intelligent pricing strategies, pooled procurement strategies, generic licensing strategies, and the role of active pharmaceutical ingredients in South Africa's import-export industry. Finally, we explain the difference between B2C and B2B2C supply chains. Start off your weekly lesson in class through a light discussion around the public healthcare system. And this includes the network of hospitals, clinics, doctors, pharmacies, and medicines that are provided by the National Department of Health. For people who cannot afford their own private healthcare, our government meets the needs of patients who need to be treated with certain medicines by establishing relationships with the suppliers of these medicines. It publishes documents called tenders on government websites, informing businesses about services that government needs, like a clinic that needs to be built, for example, or a certain type of medicine that is needed in the country. Tenders are often worth multi-millions, if not billions of rands, and so can also be a good growth opportunity for entrepreneurs looking to build their enterprises. To compete for the chance to win the tender, entrepreneurs will submit a document called a bid. And this document contains information around the entrepreneur's company or startup, the services conferred, and how they plan to carry out the work needed by government, and most importantly, what they'll charge. Go on to explain to the class that medicines are often expensive because existing enterprises in South Africa often lack the infrastructure, factories, and ingredients to manufacture their own medicines within the country. And so because of this, a large amount of medicines used by South Africans are actually manufactured internationally offshore. For example, India is a prime supplier of ARVs or antiretroviral medicines used to treat HIV. and many South African companies import the main ingredient of the medicine needed, which is called the active pharmaceutical ingredient, or the API. The suppliers who import this API then formulate the main ingredient into a full tablet here in South Africa before distributing and selling it at a higher price. And in this way, the import-export industry offers many exciting cross-border opportunities for emerging entrepreneurs in healthcare. Now that the class has a better understanding of the tendering process, we're going to look at how bidding companies set their pricing strategies. To progress to the activity, remind the learners of the last lesson in which we introduced two common pricing strategies used in business: a low price, high volume strategy and the high price, low volume strategy. The high price, low volume strategy means that the entrepreneur will charge a high price for their product and will likely receive a lower number of orders and sales simply because fewer customers are willing to pay the higher price for the product. Conversely, with the low price, high volume strategy, the entrepreneur charges a lower price for each product sold, but may still end up with large profits by selling to a much larger volume of customers who are all willing to purchase because of the lower price. Using this information, ask the class which of the two pricing strategies they would use: the high cost, low volume strategy or the low cost, high volume strategy. The answer should point to a low cost, high volume strategy in the public healthcare sector. So get them to speak about why they've chosen that option, and the immediate answers would and should point out that for the entrepreneur, the benefit is that they would be able to make large profits due to large volumes of orders in the public healthcare system, while for government, the benefit there would be the potential to treat many more patients in the country, since the price of medication will have fallen due to the low price, large volume strategy employed. The second activity is centered around the notion of generics. To introduce it, ask the class if anyone has ever purchased a pair of jeans that looked almost identical to an original pair of branded Levi's jeans, or if anyone has ever purchased a handbag that looked almost identical in design to a branded handbag, but that wasn't an original luxury brand handbag. Go on to mention to the class that this is the purpose of a generic, an alternative that does the exact same thing as the high-priced original brand, but that is available at a much lower price. And this principle extends all the way to pharmaceutical generics. Original medication produced by a pharmaceutical company is usually very expensive because this company that discovered the medication or molecule will have invested heavily in researching, developing, and testing the medicine and the molecule over years. And through a much higher price, they aim to recover these research and development costs. However, because medicines from the original brand is often so expensive, many people who need access to it may not be able to afford it, negatively impacting access in healthcare. So to remedy this, sometimes smaller pharmaceutical companies will approach the original company and offer to purchase a license from the originator, enabling them to produce the same medication using the exact same formula and the same ingredients. In other words, the new drug will be bio-identical to the original, but it will be sold under a new brand name and will be much cheaper in price. And so to contain costs and increase access to medicines for patients who need the medication, governments often buy and distribute generic medicines in the public healthcare system of South Africa. Consider introducing the concept of pooled procurement for the third topic. To understand this concept, we're going to go back to the last lesson once more. Find a female volunteer from the class and start off by asking her to imagine that she's an entrepreneur that has started her own line of skincare and makeup products, and that she sells a jar of makeup for 300 rands. Now ask her to imagine that a large store called Beauty and More has approached her and would like to sell her products to their customers in their store. they would like to purchase 100 jars of makeup from her each month, which is a much larger volume of orders than she usually receives. The store is willing to buy these larger quantities from her each month, but is only willing to do so at a lower price, i.e. they want a discount on the price of each product first. At this point, ask the volunteering learner if she would agree to lower the price, and if so, why. The ideal answer is that they would and should be willing to lower the price because the sales volumes guaranteed are much higher than usual, therefore justifying a lower price per product. So the simple rule for entrepreneurs is often that higher volumes of orders can justify lowering the price of the individual or product being sold. Go on to explain that sometimes entrepreneurs sell directly to customers and that this is referred to as a B2C enterprise or a business to consumer enterprise. And in other cases, entrepreneurs are able to secure large volumes of orders by selling their products in bulk to large retail stores instead of selling directly to individual customers, and that larger retail stores then sell their products to the end consumers. This is referred to as a B2B2C enterprise or a business to consumer enterprise. Accepting lower prices in exchange for higher volumes of orders keeps profit lines consistent and is a typical feature of B2B2C enterprises. Now ask the volunteer that if the store promised to purchase 100 jars of makeup from her a month, what price would she agree to if she had to lower it from 300 rands? She may respond with an arbitrary price of, say, 200 rands. And go to the chalkboard to illustrate this example further by writing down these numbers. In that she would sell one product for 300 rand a jar, 100 products in bulk at a reduced price of 200 rand per jar, and to secure an even lower price of 150 rands, which many stores may want. Ask her what volumes she would need above 100, and she may indicate that for an even lower price, she would need a volume of 200 orders secured. Go on with this example to explain that while the retail store is happy to purchase 100 jars from her, they may be unwilling to purchase 200 jars from her since they may not have that many customers to sell to. So just to secure the lower price, they may consider partnering with another retail store that sells similar items and jointly placing one big order for 200 jars of makeup per month by disclosing to her that 100 jars of makeup would go to themselves and another 100 jars would go to the second retail store. This way, the two retail stores both receive the bigger discount and their customers likely get to cash in on some of the savings, while the entrepreneur is cashing in on large volumes of orders for her product. This model in supply chain is known as pooled procurement. Everyone in this operation benefits, which is ideally the way business should work. Go on to explain that similarly, pooled procurement is a common strategy for governments to use when they need to secure lower prices of a medicine so that more people can be treated. If the government of a smaller country, for instance, needs to order medicines, but also needs a discount on the medicines from the manufacturer, then they may partner with governments of other countries in the same region to place one big order with huge volumes in order to negotiate a much lower price for themselves and for their partner countries. Again, this form of pooled procurement creates a win-win situation for everybody. So ask the class how each party benefits from it, including the government partners, the entrepreneur, and very importantly, the end patient in the public healthcare system using the previous analogy. This video completes our syllabus and is marked by the last week of the challenge, so thank you for following it thus far. Remember to get your learners to participate in the pitching competition this week, in which they have to upload a short video of themselves conducting an actual pitch for investment of a business idea they have. They can do this in groups or in pairs, and the top teams will stand a chance to win startup support services to the value of 50,000 rands in aid of turning their idea into a reality.